Hello, it's time for another story. Today is going to be from Toy Story. Toy Story of Terror. Alright, so let's dive into this one. It was a dark and spooky night. A woman was being chased through a cemetery by vampires. The vampire was getting closer and closer. Suddenly someone screamed, "Run, Betsy, run!" Rex called. Bonnie and her family were in the car on their way to the family vacation. Bonnie's toys were in the trunk of the car watching a scary movie. "Boring," Mr. Potato Head grumbled. "Patience," Mr. Pickle Pants advised. Or Prickle Pants. All good horror films start slow. Mr. Prickle Pants was an expert on scary movies. In fact, he considered himself an expert on all movies and plays and books. Inside the car, Bonnie rubbed her eyes. "Are we there yet?" she asked with a yawn. "Not for a few more hours," her mom replied. "You can go back to sleep." Go thump. Just then the car hit a pothole and blew a tire. Toys went flying. Jessie fell into the toolbox and the lid slammed shut. "Help!" she screamed. Toys went after Mr. Potato Head. Oh, hold on. Woody and Buzz Lightyear jumped into action. The two forced open the box to help Jessie climb out. Jessie was frightened. "I couldn't find a way out," she gasped. "What's the matter, Jessie?" Trixie whispered. "She was abandoned in a box for years," Mr. Potato Head explained. Outside, thunder boomed and lightning flashed. The storm was getting worse. Bonnie's mom pulled over to the roadside motel. The family would be staying there until the tire on their car was fixed. Bonnie reached into the trunk and grabbed her toys. The roadside motel is one of the most common locations for horror films, Mr. Prickle Pants pointed out. When they reached their room, Mr. Potato Head decided to go look around. "I wouldn't go outside there if I were you," Mr. Pickle Pants warned. "The first to leave usually gets it," Mr. Potato Head scuffed and wasn't worried. Toys went after Mr. Potato Head, but he had vanished. "Maybe this place is haunted," Mr. Prickle Pants whispered. The two split up to look for Mr. Potato Head. Suddenly Rex screamed, "Ew, I stepped on something," he said, then wiped on Mr. goo off his foot. As Buzz looked around, he realized that Mr. Potato Head had stepped into some of the stuff and left a trail of footprints. Trixie followed the tracks to the air vent. As she looked down, she fell and disappeared. Once the heroes entered, there's no turning back, Mr. Prickle Pants noted. toys followed Trixie into the vent. Buzz, glow-in-the-dark feature, lit the way. "What happens now, Rex?" asked Mr. Bricklebans. This would be the part where the characters get separated and then picked off one by one, answered the hedgehog. Seconds later, something snatched Mr. Bricklebans. Then it snatched Rex. Woody, Jez, and then Buzz looked at each other and ran. Just then, something slowly cut out of darkness towards it was Mr. Potato Head's arm. "He's trying to tell us something," Buzz said. "That's the number one," Woody said. "I think maybe it's pointing up," Jessie said. But the toys was a bench. The trio followed it into the bathroom. As Jessie looked around, something snatched Woody and Buzz. Then something pulled Jessie under the sink. It was Combat Curl, a soldier toy with a missing hand. "This place isn't safe for toys," he warned her. The pair heard a noise. "We're trapped," Jessie cried. "Combat Carl never gives up," the soldier toy said. "Combat Carl finds a way." Toys tried to run, but something snatched Combat Carl. Jessie was on her own. The girl hid in the bathtub. Seconds later, she heard a loud rush, claws slashing at the shower curtain. Jessie backed up. An iguana appeared. It had Mr. Potato Head's arm in its mouth. Jessie prepared for the worst. The iguana was actually friendly. It swallowed the arm in one gulp and gave Jessie a big lick. Grabbing her gently in his mouth, the iguana carried the cowgirl to a room behind the motel lobby. He set her in the basket and rang a dinner bell. A bell. Ding. "I saw him fine, Mr. Jones," the manager said, coming into the back room. He had trained his iguana to steal toys from motel guests so he could sell them on the internet. The manager posted Jessie's picture on a website and put her in a glass cabinet. The cowgirl's friends were there too. Even Combat Carl and his friend Combat Carl Jr. A few minutes later, the manager returned. He checked his computer. He found he had sold Woody. Rushing into the cabinet, he grabbed the cowboy and picked him and packed him in a box. The delivery truck would arrive soon to pick up the package. "Woody," Jessie whispered sadly. What started out as a classic horror film has turned into something more of a tragedy, Mr. Bricklebans observed. A few minutes later, the manager sold Jessie too. He was just taking her out when the mechanic arrived to fix Bonnie's car. The manager put Jessie down and went to speak with the mechanic. She tried to unlock the cabinet, but she couldn't reach the latch. Even worse, the delivery truck had arrived. The driver came into the back room and took the package with Woody inside. Jesse didn't know what to do, but Combat Carl had a plan. Listen, he said, in a few minutes, the delivery lady is going to come through the door and take the other boxes. And you're going to be in one of them. Jesse panicked. I can't get in the box, he said. Jesse, the soldier shouted. When Combat Carl gets stuck in the jam, he says to himself, Combat Carl never gives up. Combat Carl finds a way. Now say it, he ordered. Jesse tried. Combat Carl never gives up. Combat Carl, you're not Combat Carl, he shouted at her. Oh, Jesse never gives up. Jesse finds a way, the cowgirl replied, finally understanding. Jesse snuck into the empty lobby, opened one of the boxes the manager had packed. She freed the robot toy bravely. Jesse crawled into the box in the robot's place. If she could get on the delivery truck, she could free Woody. The plan was working. When the delivery lady taped the box shut and threw it in the truck, Jessie began to panic. Then she remembered Combat Carl's words. Jessie never gives up. Jessie finds a way, she told herself. Feeling around, the cowgirl found a paper clip. She used it to slit the tape and crawled out of the box. Then Jessie found Woody. The two returned to the back room to free their friends. Suddenly Jessie heard Bonnie's voice coming from the lobby. The car was fixed. Bonnie's family was getting ready to leave. The cowgirl raced towards the curtain that separated the back room from the lobby. She was almost there when Mr. Jones caught her. Jessie kicked the iguana and it spit something out. My hand, Combat Carl shouted from inside the cabinet. Mr. Potato Head's arm was also inside the iguana's mouth. Jessie grabbed the arm and used it to pull the curtain open. At that moment, Bonnie looked through the curtain and saw a cabinet. My toys, she cried, running into the back room. Are those my daughter's toys? Bonnie's mom asked nervously. The motel manager asked the nervous motel manager. Meanwhile, Mr. Jones put Jessie in a basket on the floor and rang the bell. Looking down, Bonnie saw the cowgirl. Jessie, the little girl shouted, pointing at the doll. Later, back in the trunk of Bonnie's car, the toys celebrated. You did it, Jessie. You saved us all. Buzz said. Jessie didn't give up. Jessie found a way, the cowgirl said. Mr. Potato Head looked fondly at his arm. We ain't never gonna get separated again, he said. Ka-thump. Just then, the car hit a bump. Mr. Potato Head's parts scattered around the trunk. Ah, nuts, he said. Everyone laughed. Then Mr. Prickle Pants noted was a sure sign the story had reached its end. Well, that was today's story. I hope you enjoyed that one. Till we see each other again tomorrow. Bye-bye.